Good evening. This is Defacto Review with me, Jargal Tampatarja. For this week, our review will consider two topics. First, Mongolian National Airlines got new airline. What is that? What does it mean? Second, Mongolian mortgage fund will be moved to the government balance. So these are two topics. First, about Mongolian Airlines. Mongolian Airlines got new Boeing 787-9 type of aircraft. This aircraft first made initial flight in Paris, 2015, in the Paris Air Show. What was interesting was this airline could go immediately up when it is taken off. Mongolian Airlines has been trying to have this airline for years, since the beginning, before the COVID. But finally they made an agreement and they leased two of them from Air Cup company. The first one arrived last week. Second will come at the first quarter of next year. What kind of aircraft is this? 787-9 is, there is also 787-8, and this is a 787-9. There is already 10 available now on the market. This particular aircraft has 292 seats, 30 in business, 36 in extra leg room, and 26 in the economy classes. Specific of this airline is it's a most efficient airline so far, airplane so far, 62.5 meter long, 62 meters wide, and it can, the most importantly, it can fly up to 14,000 kilometer long distance. Very fuel efficient, because it's consisting of more light material, namely composite material, and cutting down substantially on the weight. This one, if 777 series consumes 6,000 to 7,500 liters of fuel per hour, depending on the variants. But this aircraft, 787, noticeably much better, and it's generally between 4,900 to 5,600 liters per hour. Still, it's in particular if you fly 14 hours, that means substantial big, around almost 70 tons of fuel you take on. So 787 is 1,000 liter, almost 1 ton less per hour flight consumes. That's one of the reasons why MIAT obtained this one through leasing procedure. Well, MIAT, according to the CEO of Munktemir, 30% of the airline is fuel, but Mongolia was buying it through the broker company before. Now it's a state-owned company. Whether it's the best or not, time will show. But still, again, this, though it's way cheaper, but they buy 100% from the Russian Rosneft. So air fuel, we're completely dependent also on Russia. People talk about MIAT having too much staff per seat of airlines. It turned out MIAT has not only air transport air service, but it has also repair maintenance service, not only for MIAT and for other airlines, and also it provides land, ground services for other airlines. So that's why they have some 900 staff 1/3 of them is all working for air services. The remaining work for example, the repair and maintenance department of the MIAT. They do even sea check in Mongolia of aircraft. And for 2022, they had made services for 100 aircrafts from all around the world, which is very growing business. And down the road, it can be a separate business in the country. But so far, the economies of scale do not allow MIAT to have those services separate. That's one of the reasons why they have so many staff per seats of airline. The other thing is now MIAT is flying domestically for the first time after almost 20 years of break. Domestic for this big country like Mongolia, 1.5 million square meter, and private airlines were flying, but they were only flying when it was commercially visible. So that's why many people in Mongolia inside, in particular tourists, were traveling by car 2,000 kilometers, long distance, which was very troublesome. And now Mongolian Airlines, by the order of the government of Mongolia from this year, because this year is announced the year of visiting Mongolia, they are flying now to 7 places. Boeing with most western province, the price was 1.7 million MNT. Now it is under 900,000. They fly another western city, Hovd, 1.5 million MNT, now under 900. Ulangom, Osamak, this is a 1.4 million MNT price otherwise before. Now it's under 900. Etc., etc. And it flies to the south of the country, Tadang Zatrat, South Gobi, Murung, the north to Hupsugul Aimak. It is now about under 700,000. Altai Gobi, Altai Aimak, under 850,000. Choibilsang is the most eastern province of the country. The price is two-way ticket is under 620,000 MNT. So under this subsidized with the loss of Mongolian Airlines, the flights now have been used now already and creating substantial flow of passengers since the summer this year. So people now would prepare to fly because the destination development will take at least 2 years, and hopefully after 2 years, the people will be more used to fly airlines for long distances in the country for domestic flights. And then hopefully because the increase of flow of passengers, they will cover their costs, which otherwise is now under the loss. Mongolian Airlines fly 3 times a day to Korea now. Total there are 10 flights, yet there is a very few seats available. With these 3 flights of MIAT, you can do your business during a day in Korea and come back at night, which is, if it is many businesses, very substantial provision. The most important, after receiving these 2 wide-body aircrafts, Mongolia is going to fly to the USA. The 2 governments have signed agreement recently during the Prime Minister visit to D.C., and now under this open skies agreement they have signed, any airline can fly in between 2 countries without any restrictions, provided they meet the security standards of both countries. Passenger flow-wise, in 2019, before COVID, there were 70,000 passengers in between 2 countries. All of them were flying through either Korea or China. And MIAT is planning to get at least a half of this flow. Why? Because the destination development suggests that the flight time will be way shorter. If now Ulaanbaatar-Seattle estimation is around 14 hours, then this flight will be 10 hours. 4 hours is substantial economy of time. And of course, it will be attracted in it will be reflected in the price. Price will be cheaper, though the flight time will be much less. So with both criterion, MIAT is expecting to receive more passengers on routes. It's good also for trade and investment of between two countries, because of this major two factors. Now, what is to do is FAA of the USA, Federal Aviation Authorities, will be coming to Mongolia to be introduced on the current situation of the flight security in the country. Then after that, they will notice what kind of improvements to be made. Then they will have a own standard inspection. If Mongolia meets those standards of F1 air safety standard, then Mongolian Airlines will be able at least to fly to the USA. Now the Mongolian National Airline is considering which airport will be the hub airport for MIAT. There is several versions, of course, Chicago, Denver, Atlanta, Seattle, Los Angeles, California, San Francisco, etc. But the issue would be what will be the best arrangements with the other airlines who will take passengers throughout the USA. So the country is working on that, and at least a good start there, and the first aircraft is here, and the second is coming in the first quarter of the next year. So we will wait and see. We'll be happy to fly shorter time to the US with cheaper prices. Our second topic today about the mortgage plan in Mongolia. As of today, recently statistics show that there are 110,000 households got their discounted mortgage rate housing, apartments mostly, and total their mortgage loan volume is around 7 trillion MNT. 7 trillion MNT, it's a quite sum, but it is compared with the demand for housing is relatively low. So who are there, those who get this mortgage loan, and what are they buying? Statistics clearly says that these people, for example, 42% of those borrowers of this mortgage loan age is in between 35 45. Then a bit less is at the age of 25 to 35. So these are relatively younger people who are getting these mortgages, understandably. And who are there? They mostly 17% are working with their own, they have own businesses, small, medium enterprises, and 15% are the public officers, military officials, officers, etc. The most interesting statistics for me is 85% of apartments they got under this mortgage discounted loan, the apartment size is up to 80 square meter. Very small, relatively, apartments, but this is the demand. Really, this is the feature of the demand of the housing in the country, meaning that there are even more, 270 or so thousand in Ulaanbaatar city alone, households look for apartments to buy, to have a loan on that. So there's a lot of demand, but the way we supply around 20 to 30,000, less than 20,000 actually, 20,000 apartments a year is not meeting at all the huge demand of, say, 270 or so thousand families are looking for apartments. With that speed, it will take 20 or so years, even more, to have Mongolians in Ulaanbaatar city living in their houses that meets the minimum sanitary conditions. So that's why we need to reconsider the way how we organize this mortgage system in the country. Plus, at the end of this year, whole balance of mortgage will go from the central bank to the balance of the government. The same approach was made many times, but never the government got to their balance this one, because by the nature, this mortgage system of Mongolia is more budgetary work rather than the monetary work. They should not be in the balance of the central bank. So this year, hopefully they will be shifted to that balance, which will make more clear and more efficiently, provided that the government can cover the differences between the interest rates, because the normal loan interest rate is around 14 to 15%, even more now, but these discounted mortgage rate is around even 6%. So the differences, though now the currently MIC corporation, there is a MIC corporation which provides a mortgage loan through the products of securities they issue based on the money they receive from the previous loans, and they make a collateral on that, and they issue a bond against those receiving funds, and they reissue new loans, which is not really meeting all these demands because it's cheaper, etc. The huge demand, and now the government will take over that, but the government has anyway budget deficit usually, so we will see if the government will take it or not. The cabinet will take it or not to their balance this year. But we need to reconsider this method because it cannot go very long. It is not that much sustainable. So how do we change? Mongolia is making money only through the minerals. And those proceeds from the mineral sales, exports in the form of royalty, comes to the government. It's a large amount of money, which Mongolian government is using for covering the budget deficit. Instead, they should have the sovereign wealth fund, like any other mineral-rich countries do. And they were supposed to do it, this law, they are supposed to renew that law and by the end of 2021. But they did not. Now the current parliament is demanding to make all this for the rest of this year and to have the new law of National Wealth Fund approved. But now it looks like they are changing their concept, because this law will be consisting of future fund, and there was a future fund and a human development fund before, but now it's like a future fund, development fund, and distribution fund. But that distribution fund kind of previously human development fund. That's according to some ministers that we should not understand in the wrong way, that distribution fund. But distribution fund, if it will be this human development fund, the first attention to be given to housing, because the people who has no house, it is very hard to talk about the development. This basic needs to be met somehow. So Mongolia is to use that distribution fund, so-called, if it will come in with this term in the law draft, whatever it is the name, but this money is to go for reconsidering and financing new way of housing project in Mongolia. There are a lot of good examples in the world, in particular in Singapore, to mention that every prime minister, every new cabinet was visiting Singapore, and they have been learning, and they never have been implementing that up to now, because they have the financing of housing in Singapore is made through Central Provident Fund, where all national insurance, pension fund, everything is get under one roof, and they've been in Mongolia, for example, pension fund is called pension insurance, which is misleading the concept. So people are not only receiving on-time pensions, but whatever is remaining, and nothing is remaining because it's not personal accounts. So the fund would disappear. At the time when this Central Provident Fund in Singapore, in many other countries, pension fund is whatever is remaining from the money I have been giving for the last 40 years to that fund, I receive, or the children's receive. This is the way how long-term accumulation of money is made in every country. Hopefully Mongolia will go to that directions, and that money plus the National Sovereignty Fund, the part of this Human Development Fund, combined together, I hope, will solve the issue of housing in this country. It will require quite substantial understanding and implementation of a new approach, new funds. Many approaches can be used similar, like in Singapore, about which I was writing several articles, and it's available on my website in 2 languages. In general, we need to reconsider the housing funding when we reconsider now about the future Human Development Fund. So simply because without housing, it's very hard to talk about human development. Well, that's our second topic. So today I have covered 2 topics with you of the last week important events in the country. First of all, about our air transportation system. MIAT got new aircraft. Second, about this mortgage fund will be moved to the government account this year. What does it mean? How can we change the housing conditions in the country? With that, see you next week. Thank you very much for watching our program. Bye now.